All right, welcome everybody. This is Jen Maleka filling in this week for Piper, our typical host for our Health Coach Tip Tuesday show. And I have Reed Davis here with us, our founder of Functional Diagnostic Nutrition. And this Tuesday, Reed and I are going to be talking to you all about a better way to assess health problems and identify healing opportunities. And Reed, I know that this is an area that you have kind of definitely become the expert in so many ways. And also, I'm excited to share with people this concept about metabolic chaos that we talk about, a term that you kind of coined based on your experience of working in a clinic and understanding what was going on with people, what makes some people feel better or worse, and how you kind of develop this process to assess health problems and identify healing opportunities that we're going to share with everybody today. And so we're excited to get that going. I see we have some people that are joining on with us. We have Azia. I probably said that wrong, says hi there. So hi to all of our audience that we have. Would love to know where you guys are joining us from. I'm in San Diego by the beach here in Pacific Beach. Reed is out in East San Diego area. It's kind of hot and humid here in San Diego. I know there's a lot of weather going on in other places of the world, but let us know where you're chiming in at and joining us. And also, hey, Sarah, let us know what questions you have about assessing health problems and helping either yourself or your clients to actually heal those health problems. So we're going to go through and share some information with you guys today. But if you have very specific problems or questions, that you would like Reed and I to address, please feel free to drop those below the video, and we'll be taking a look at those over the next 30 minutes as we talk with you. And also, if you guys are ready to kind of level up your skill set, if you are looking for a better way to assess health problems and identify healing opportunities, we are actually starting a live 6-week course where you get to work directly with Reed and I actually on Monday the 31st. And if you want more information about that live 6-week course, go ahead and drop the word heal below, because in that live 6-week course is actually where we're going to walk you through the steps to assess health problems and identify healing opportunities on an even deeper level. And you'll get tools in that 6-week live course with us that you'll actually get to take and use on yourself and use with your clients. So Reed, let's get started here. How are you doing over there out in East County? Are you staying cool in that East San Diego area?
Yeah, it's a beautiful day, just like yesterday and tomorrow and the next day and the next day. We have the most boring weather. It's just always blue sky and sunny, and how can you stand it, really?
Yeah, awesome. And we got Sarah that's joining us from Milwaukee. We've got Esther. Thanks for correcting me on that. Esther is joining us from Durban, South Africa. So way across the other side of the pond over there, as we would say. So grateful to see some of you guys in. And Donna from Boston. Awesome. So let's dive in, Reed. And I think what would be great to start off with is, why don't you share a little bit of your experience in the work that you did in the clinic for years, testing hundreds of, actually thousands of individuals, and how you kind of started to develop this process of assessing health problems in a different kind of way, and what you were noticing.
Yeah, thanks, Jen. Well, of course, I was looking for underlying causes when I was trying to help people in the clinic, and now we have developed the whole system, and we can easily teach other people how to do it. They can do it on themselves and their clients. But it was from being in the clinic, running thousands of labs on thousands of people, and yet not being able to provide a medical diagnosis. So I was looking for something like, forget medical diagnosis. What's really wrong with people? It's not just putting a label on something. And what I discovered was that people had all kinds of negative input into their bodies. And depending on each individual, it turned out to be a certain set of symptoms. And it just varied from person to person to person. So after running thousands of labs on thousands of people, I noticed some patterns. And I call those the hidden, HIDDEN, stressors and contributors to metabolic chaos. In other words, not one diagnosis, not irritable bowel or chronic fatigue or fibromyalgia or adrenal this and that or anything. No one thing in particular, because that's more for the medical mind and the medical doctor, and it doesn't work. So what does work is having one diagnosis, and that's, we call it metabolic chaos. And it just means that stress has come into your body. It has ricocheted around from one function to another, from one cell to another, through one metabolic process to another, and caused dysfunction and imbalance. And downstream from that is where the symptoms come out or appear. So it's just the perfect construct or way of a non-licensed practitioner looking at what's wrong with the person. Their body's in chaos. There's things in chaos, and it's really infinitely complex. But we have an easy way to sort it out. So metabolic chaos is just a state where hidden stressors have caused dysfunction, and it's really impossible to predict, what's really wrong.
Mm-hmm. So that's basically like a new way of looking at disease, is understanding that, a specific diagnosis, let's say like, somebody gets diagnosed with hypothyroidism, that's a specific diagnosis. That a new way of looking at that and looking at disease is to actually turn and look at metabolic chaos, because metabolic chaos is really what's going on in the background. Like something like a thyroid condition could be a contributor to or a result of metabolic chaos. And so when we focus in just on thyroid, we could be leaving out some really important pieces of the puzzle, right? So how do we go about assessing metabolic chaos, Reed? Like, what do you think are the keys in order to determine, the depth of metabolic chaos or the type of metabolic chaos or all the things that are contributing to metabolic chaos? Like, how do we do that as FDNs?
Well, as FDNs, we follow a pattern that I established many, many, many years ago, not from some theoretical perspective, but from just plain hard running thousands of labs on thousands of people. I noticed that when we corrected the imbalances and restored resiliency, if you will, within the hormone, immune, digestion, and detoxification systems, like just everybody just got better. It's like, didn't matter what their problem was, just work on their hormones, their immune system, digestion, and detoxification. And everybody was just improving, no matter what. As long as they followed the directions on how to improve those things, then they all got better. Or I'll say almost all of them. And what sealed the deal for me was learning two more areas: energy production and nervous system balance, and so that just sealed the deal. So it was hormone, immune, digestion, detoxification, HIDD. And when we added the EN, which spells hidden, it just became like this process that people went through, and I didn't have to care. I'm not a doctor. I can't provide a medical diagnosis, and learned I don't want to. And no one wants to hear another diagnosis anyway. They just want to know, do you know what's wrong with me? And can you help me? So yeah, I figured out it's these main areas. And then as far as helping you goes, it's follow these instructions. Like, what protocol will have an effect on every one of those things, every cell, every tissue, every organ, and every system? Well, that's more years and years of research. But when you follow the DRESS protocol, which is now pretty well established and well known, people, again, they just get better. And so that's how we work on ourselves. And that's how, as health coaches, we can help as many people as you can get. You're never going to run out of sick people.
Right. So this is great. So you're kind of talking about those hidden healing opportunities. So we have some very unique ways of investigation that we've learned from you through FDN. And then through that unique investigation, or that better way to assess basically health problems, then we're collecting very specific data. And that data is uncovering what Reed's talking about are these hidden healing opportunities, healing opportunities within the hormone, immune, digestion, detoxification, energy, and nervous systems, where we then can be more personalized or strategic in our recommendations for lifestyle changes like diet, rest, exercise, stress reduction, supplementation, even toxin removal, to actually apply the general principles of health in order to help get somebody better. Which what we see, Reed, right, all the time is that these general principles of health, guided by this objective data and assessment analysis that we do, outperform specific treatments time and time again. I know I see that in my clients who seek treatment for specific ailments and they're not really getting better. And then when they come work with me, all of a sudden, within a matter of a few weeks of applying these principles that we're talking about, they are losing weight, they're feeling better in their body than they've ever felt before.
Yeah, because they're actually functioning better. Because what a health coach can do for people, and doctors can too, and anybody can, it's just if you have the right approach, the right mentality. So the point of view is the key, and that is that health is really the abundance of balance, or balance in all these areas, plus resiliency. So balance and resiliency. So when someone's sick, they're definitely out of balance. Now, how resilient they are is another question. Most people can overcome a common cold. They can overcome a mosquito bite. A lot of sort of bad things can happen to you, and your body's resilient enough to fight that. But when it has accumulated and accumulated and accumulated in all these various forms, again, you look at the hormones out of whack, the immune system is under or overactive, the digestive system isn't breaking down and absorbing food properly, their detoxification system is clogged up and not working very well, they're not producing energy on a cellular level, their nervous system is out of balance. A lot of people get way too sympathetic dominant. They have anxiety and things like that. Well, that's way out of balance in a lot of ways, and you start to lose resiliency, the ability to overcome. And that's pretty much a state of metabolic chaos. It just all kind of works. So when you have these basic understandings, then you can really help people. They'll be working on restoring balance and resiliency, not treating a specific thing. We leave that to medical doctors, and some of them are really good at it, and sometimes you need that. Like a chiropractor can work specifically on neck out of alignment, or acupuncturists can work specifically on energy systems out of balance. Doctors can certainly patch you up in ways that we don't. But the average person needs to return all their systems into balance and restore resiliency. Then you can take a punch in the face a couple of times and you'll be all right. You could even look at this current pandemic, COVID. Basically everyone's getting it. Everyone will get it. You can count on that. Over the next year or so, just about everyone's going to get exposed. But those who are in balance and have a lot of resiliency, man, big deal. It's going to be like maybe you get a snotty nose. Some people don't get any symptoms at all. They don't even know they have it. But the ones who've lost that resiliency, they're we know what categories they are. They are subject to getting pretty sick from it and even dying, of course. But if you're over 65, if you have heart disease, diabetes, any kind of lung disease like asthma or anything like that, and obviously if you have a compromised immune system, you're subject to getting hurt by COVID. But if you have balance and resiliency in all these systems, you should be all right.
Yeah. So there's a couple ways that we can assess resiliency in a way, right? Like, I think what comes to mind is we have this unique tool that we use called the Metabolic Chaos Scorecard. And so the Metabolic Chaos Scorecard helps us to kind of look at a lot of the things that you're talking about in terms of, what are some of the maybe contributors to, or also the result of metabolic chaos. Like, how many symptoms is somebody showing? How much dysfunction is underlying in the body. And I love using this tool with my clients because it really opens up their eyes to things that like they just write off sometimes because it's like common. So they just categorize it as normal. So things like, you know, being sensitive to sunlight exposure or being cold all the time or not being able to sleep through the night or go to sleep easily. So we do this like very thorough intake process to assess our clients and assess what is their metabolic chaos score. And that is, again, a tool that we're going to be giving you guys in the live course that's starting up on Monday the 31st. Today is actually the last day to enroll. So if you're interested in learning about this type of assessment that we do and getting into it on a deeper level, please drop the word HEAL below to get more information, and you'll get access. You'll get to learn how to use this metabolic chaos scorecard. And then the metabolic chaos scorecard really helps us to correlate with the testing that we're doing also, right, Reed? So we talk about the different stages of HPA axis dysfunction, and that comes to mind as another way to test, you know, kind of assess somebody's resiliency. So can you talk a little bit about like the 3 stages of HPA axis dysfunction and what that might tell us about somebody's resiliency as you're mentioning here?
Sure. You know, there's a construct that we use. It's not a medical diagnosis. Everyone should write the word HEAL, HEAL, into the box there so we can get this tool that Jen was talking about out to you that helps assess how much metabolic chaos there is on a point system. And the idea, you know, remember it's hormone, immune, digestion, detoxification. Each one has its own sort of graph of where it might be first overreactive. You're kind of in an acute phase. Your immune system's under direct attack. Your hormones are under direct attack. Your not just your adrenals, but all the hormone producing glands. Your digestive system can be under attack. So you can respond if you have resiliency, you know, really, if you're really healthy in a good way. Your body can fight most of that off. But again, when it gets, so we would call that an acute phase. Like, hey, I've got a cold, but it's going to go away. Or, you know, my boss just yelled at me. So I'm in sort of acute stress stage, but you'll recover. Or you have relationship problems or whatever it might be. So you can be this sort of an acute phase. Hopefully that's temporary. You should be able to sort of slide right back into your normal state, normal, healthy state. But what happens with chronic distress, chronic stress predominance, you have all kinds of them from everywhere in your environment. It could be mental, it could be emotional, it could be chemical, it could be trauma, physical pain. All kinds of things can happen to you. And when it adds up, you kind of go over a threshold. It's no longer acute, it's chronic. And so the body breaks down and you're still kind of resilient. You're still trying to get back to where you were. But what you find is you start self-medicating. These are people now who are totally addicted to coffee. They're spending $300-400 a month at Starbucks or buying, you know, exotic this and that, and they're wearing out their K-cup or their French press at home and stuff. But then guess what? At nighttime, they're coming home, they're doing more self-medicating. They're using alcohol or drugs to try to chill out and have a, you know, so when you're in that, you're over the threshold of like acute, it's no longer just, you know, something popping up once in a while. It's like constant all the time. Again, mental, emotional, physical. It could be chemical and biochemical. Your body even is making toxins or whatever you have. So you got all these stressors, and you've gone into kind of a compensatory, like chronic, and you're losing resiliency. You might, and things are out of balance. Well, that's where Jen was just talking about. We look at the labs or we use questionnaires initially, like as sort of an initial intake kind of a thing. And, you know, we're going to be giving that medical metabolic scorecard away. All you have to do is attend a webinar. That's later today, right? Isn't it today?
Yeah, I was actually just going to say, if you guys are really loving what we're talking about, if we are hosting another live event later today at 4 p.m. Pacific time, where we're going to be talking more about this whole concept of assessing on a deeper level, kind of upgrading your skill set If you're interested in attending that live event, that webinar later today, go ahead and drop the word webinar below, and we'll make sure that one of our course counselors gets you the details about that as well. We're going to talk probably for an hour. Knowing you, Reed, we'll probably go for 90 minutes talking about this on a deeper level. We're kind of giving you just like the highlights in our conversation right now. But I love, what you're saying, Reed, because you just described, the 3 stages of HPA axis dysfunction that we can assess from doing a test. Like we can do a saliva, adrenal, cortisol profile test, and we can see based on that information, what stage of HPA axis dysfunction somebody might be in. But then the question goes to like, and you already were alluding to this, is like, well, what got them there in the first place? What are all of the internal and external stressors that have been going on over a period of time that have basically worn the body down and got them into this place where they're losing their resiliency because the body's just been beat down by, all these contributors to kind of chaos and stress over time. And so one of the other really cool tools that we use is called the adrenal stress causes intake form. And that's where we actually are assessing somebody's lifestyle, their environment, like their history, and looking at, well, what are all the things that maybe contributed to this adrenal or cortisol HPA axis dysregulation and dysfunction. And that's where we can glean some more insights. And that's also a tool that we're going to be sharing in our Mastering Metabolic Chaos course that starts, like I mentioned earlier, on Monday, this Monday, the 31st. Today is the last day to enroll in that. If you guys are excited and interested in learning about how to assess on a deeper level, and you want to work directly live with Reed and I like this, go ahead and drop the word HEAL below, and we'll send you more information about the course as enrollment is closing today. But Reed, I think this just goes back to this total concept of, metabolic chaos overall. So we just kind of went through the 3 stages of HPA axis dysfunction, and what metabolic chaos is really opening our eyes to, or what are the contributors to adrenal or HPA axis dysfunction in those stages. And then maybe it's even the result of, maybe it's contributing back to the overall state of metabolic chaos. So can you talk about that a little bit more, about how within metabolic chaos we have contributors to and result of, and how they can be one and the same for metabolic chaos?
Sure. Well, I noticed that in all the years of working with people, that they were pretty stressed out mentally and emotionally, but I wasn't sure which came first. Was it because they're sick, they're in pain, they are throwing up, they have diarrhea, they've got, bad skin, they're overweight, they, just all the hair's falling out, you name it. So that people come in with symptoms, and I started tracing it back upstream. I never wanted to just treat the symptoms. So that's like rule number 1, is don't just treat the symptoms. You can have a person actually self-treat in a lot of different ways. It's very natural, and get relief, and there's nothing wrong with relief care. But if you want to fix the problem, you've got to go upstream where all the rapids are, and you got to look at the tributaries to that stream, if you will. So those tributaries, I think they come in these main areas of mental, emotional, and physical, like trauma and bad posture and weakness and things like that. And then, of course, the chemical and biochemical stressors. We didn't mention it this time, but prior to being in the health business, I was in the environmental business, and the environment is really toxic. There's 80,000 or 180,000, just an amazing number of stressors in the environment, and they affect us. We're resilient, but only up to a point. There's poisons, and a little bit of poison might not be bad, but built up over a while, it will break you down. So we get this idea of the stress response. You mentioned the HPA axis. There's other parts of the stress response, but what happens is it basically acts and will, stimulate certain functions so that you can survive, but it will also suppress others like digestion and the immune system and these kinds of things. So you can't be healthy if those aren't in balance too, your digestive system, your immune system and things. So I think stress, whatever form it comes in, will eventually start breaking your body down. And that's where this is why the idea of starts this idea of chaos, because once digestion goes and the immune system goes, then you really get sick. You can really get ill. And then that feeds on itself. You can end up, maybe if you have a weakened immune system, most of that's in the gut, you end up with a dysbiosis. Dysbiosis leads to bigger, worse bugs, pathology, like big pathogens. Then you get biofilms. Then you get leaky gut. Well, leaky gut leads to things crawling around your body that don't belong there and cause even more chaos and dysfunction, like liver and your detoxification systems, and so on and so on. So there's a cascade. There's a definite cascade. Stress goes in your body. If it's not soon resolved, cascades into other areas. Metabolic chaos ensues. And then based on one's own unique individual biochemistry, God knows what dysfunctions occur, and then even more refined individuality, disease, and then symptoms.
Yeah.
And so if you treat symptoms, you're really not looking very deep. Even if you treat the disease, if you can label a disease and treat that, you're still leaving a lot of information on the table. You leave so much on the table. The moment you give that diagnosis, well, you're leaving all this other stuff off the table. You're saying it's irritable bowel syndrome. Well, what about all these other things?
Mm-hmm.
Again, the hormones are out of balance, digestion's not working, the immune system, detoxification. But no, you say, oh, here's your diagnosis. It's irritable bowel. And they might actually have that. But again, as soon as you give that diagnosis, start treating that one thing, you're leaving everything off the table. That's why our protocols cover everything else.
Mm-hmm.
And that thing seems to go away. It's really quite magical.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the body is a complex network of systems. And so if one system is going down, you got to clue into the fact that probably all the other systems of the body are being affected or are part of the problem in that bigger picture. I mean, an example that comes to mind, Reed, is I just started working with a client who has been treated for SIBO 3 different times and with no resolve to her ultimate main complaints. Like her main complaints are she can't sleep at night. I mean, she gets bloated all the time. She has a bunch of excess weight that she's holding on to. And through 3 treatments of SIBO, it never resolved her main complaints. And we started our work together. We did the assessments that you and I are talking about today. Turns out she had, a group of food sensitivities. She definitely had some hormone imbalances going on, some HPA axis dysfunction. Her hormone pathways were a little bit messy. She's got some detoxification, congested liver stuff that's happening. And within 2 weeks of us working together, she's already lost 8 pounds. She told me today when we met this morning that she's sleeping better through the night. She's finding it easier to fall asleep. She's only getting up once or twice to go to the bathroom instead of 3 or 4 times. And she genuinely just feels better in her body. The bloating is down. And so that's just an example of like where SIBO was the diagnosis that she received, but what she really probably had going on was metabolic chaos. And I'm helping her to uncover those hidden healing opportunities. And she's getting great results with that. And I'm so excited to read because I see Catherine just typed in here that she's already registered for the Mastering Metabolic Chaos course and so excited to begin with us on Monday. So again, if you guys are loving what it is that we're talking about, enrollment closes today for our Mastering Metabolic Chaos course. This is a course that Reed and I started a couple years ago. We only teach it once a year. It's live and interactive with us where you actually get to get on hour-long Q&A calls with us every Thursday. It's a 6-week course that starts on Monday, this coming Monday, the 31st. It's under $500 and you get to learn about all of these assessments and a different way of assessing health and underlying healing opportunities like we're talking about. So if you're interested in learning more about that, and taking advantage of enrollment that's open through the end of today, please type the word HEAL below the video. And if you want to join in more on this conversation, again, we are having a webinar later today at 4 p.m. Pacific time. We're going to be diving deeper into these details with you. And you can type the word webinar in below the video and we'll get you information about that too. So as we wrap up here, Reed, are there any key points that you would like to leave our listeners with in regards to just, assessing health better and identifying healing opportunities or mastering metabolic chaos?
Well, I would say work on yourself. You know, don't just treat the symptoms. If there's a sign or symptom that something's wrong, listen to it, and you can take something for it. That's fine, or do something that makes you feel better. But if there's something that you really want to change about the way you look or feel, you've got to get help from someone that knows how to investigate upstream. So always be looking upstream for the underlying causes, conditions, and there are a lot of professionals around that can help you. Or just come to our webinar tonight and learn how you could do it on yourself, or become a professional. And by the way, I just want to say I looked up that Annette said, have you learned about adrenaline dominance? Yeah, I've learned a lot about it. And I looked up that article you just put in there, but it doesn't seem to go to that article. I couldn't hook the two up. Anyway, I'll keep looking. I've got it in my chat box. But I'm very interested in any new research, and I always want to learn something. So thank you for that. And Catherine, I'm glad you're going to be at the MMC course, and others are saying nice things too. So thank you very much. Always happy to be here.
Yeah, thanks for those pearls of wisdom, Reed. And I'm glad that was your key takeaway, because that is one of the things that we value most here as FDNs, is making sure that we walk the talk. So as part of the Mastering Metabolic Chaos course that we've been talking about, and the full FDN course, part of walking that talk is doing the assessments on yourself first and foremost, to take a look at your health and see where there are hidden healing opportunities for you to work on, which gives you that practical experience that you need to go out and work with clients and help create success with them too. So again, drop the word HEAL below if you want to learn more about our Mastering Metabolic Chaos course that starts on Monday the 31st. Enrollment closes today. And drop the word webinar if you want to join us later today to continue the conversation. And we would love to see you in both of those places. So have a great Tuesday, you guys. Piper will be back next week, and have a great rest of your week.
Yeah, thanks for filling in, Jen. You did great, as always.
All right. Have a good one.